Okay, fourth graders, today is Tuesday, March 3rd, and we are doing Module 5, Lesson 40. This is the second to last lesson in Module 5 because it only goes to 41. So tomorrow we're going to finish the last lesson. We'll do some reviewing, and then on Friday you will have your Module 5 test. Today our learning goal says I can solve word problems involving fraction and whole number multiplication. So basically we're going to take what we've been learning all unit long and use it to help us solve real-world context problems, which are word problems. An example of these word problems is your problem of the day. It says, it rained 2 2/8 inches in January and 1 3/8 inches in February. What is the difference in rainfall? What is the question asking us to find? Sanvi? Yeah, we want to find the difference in the amount of rain. So we need to know, of course, that it rained 2 2/8 inches in January and 1 3/8 inches in February. Whenever we solve word problems, we have to RDW, read, draw, write. So whenever you find these problems, it's helpful to draw two tape diagrams. We can show in January there was 2 2/8 inches, and in February there was less. There was only 1 3/8 inches. And if we're trying to find the difference, we want to find out how much more there is over here. This is what we're trying to find. What math equation could we do in order to figure this out now that we've drawn a picture? Avani? Very good. We can do 2 2/8 minus 1 3/8. The way to say this in word form is the difference between 2 2/8 and 1 3/8, or 1 3/8 taken away from 2 2/8. Now, we haven't talked about fraction subtraction in a while, but it doesn't mean you haven't learned how to do it. Can we subtract the whole number parts and then the fraction parts? Yeah, so we can do 2 minus 1 equals 1. But then we have 2/8 minus 3/8. That's difficult because 3/8 is larger than 2/8. So what does this mean we have to do, everyone? Okay, so we can use number bonds to help us. We can think of this as 2 2/8. Just like we can think of this as 1 3/8. But 2/8 is smaller than 3/8, which means we have to think of this as 1 1 2/8. Now this 1, we can think of it instead as how many eighths? 8/8. Good, because we know 8/8 is equal to 1. So instead of thinking of it as 2 2/8, we can think of that first term as 1 and 10/8. Good. And then we could take away 1 3/8. Now we're ready to subtract. 1 minus 1 is 0. So then 10/8 minus 3/8 is? What would our units be? So the difference is 7/8 of an inch. Okay, in this question it says, Mr. Reeser fills the gas tank of his truck with 9 8/10 gallons of gas each week. He fills it 5 times per month. Okay. If Mr. Reeser pays $3 per gallon for gas, how much will it cost him to fill his truck for the entire month? Right now, I want you to reread the question silently to yourself and jot down number 1, what the question is asking, and number 2, all the important information. Go. So this question is asking us to figure out how much it's going to cost to fill the truck for the entire month. We know that every time he fills his truck, he gets 9 8/10 gallons of gas. We know that he does this 5 times per month, and we know that it costs $3 per gallon. Okay. So now we have to draw a picture. We know that one time that he fills his tank, he gets 9 8/10 of a gallon. Right? And we know he does this how many times? 5 times. So we're going to draw a tape diagram that shows 5 times of 9 gallons, 9 8/10 gallons. How could we use this to help us figure out how much gas he gets all month long? Well, all of it would be all the gas he gets all month long. What equation can we do in order to figure that out? Kashyap?
4 times 9, 8 by 10.
How many times?
5.
5, because it tells us even though it's in 1 month, he fills it up 5 times. So be careful. Okay? And this is going to be in what kinds of units? Everyone? Gallons. Good. Okay, so let's use the distributive property to solve this. What would we do first in order to use the distributive property? What would you do first? Avani?
5 times 9.
5 times 9, good. And then we have to add to that 5 times what, everyone? 8 tenths, good. What's 5 times 9? Huh? 45, good. What's 5 times 8 tenths? 40 tenths. We know that's really what? 4. So how many gallons of gas does he get every month? 49 gallons. Is that my final answer? Let's go back and see. What's the question asking? It says, how much will it cost him? Oh, is 49 gallons a price? No. But in the problem, we know that it costs $3 per gallon. So if we know that he gets 49 gallons, how can we find out how much it's going to cost? Anushka?
49 times 3.
Very good. We can do 49 times 3. And when we do that, we can find out that he spends $147 each month on gas. On your lesson 40 problem set, you will see this table. Okay? It's describing different players, football players, player A, player B, etc., and how tall they are in feet. So for example, player A is 6 1/4 feet high. Okay? At the bottom of that page where you see the chart, use this data to create a line plot. It's been a while. We started this lesson, we started this whole unit talking about line plots. And on your mid-module test, you had some line plots you had to draw. Some of you are forgetting key components of line plots. So what's the first thing we need to draw in order to have a line plot? We have to have a number line. Okay. What kind of data are we going to be tracking? Are we tracking A, B, C, D, E? No, we're tracking what? Everyone? Height. So that means at the bottom here, we have to write a table, a title, which is height. And then in parentheses, we have to write the units. What kind of units are we using to measure the height? In feet. If you don't write this part, it's incomplete. Now we have to look at our data. We have to figure out, our number line doesn't have to go from 0 to 100. It has to center in the amount of data that we need. What's the lowest number that we see? Take a look at the data and look. What is the lowest number that we see? Haruto?
5, 6, 8.
5 6/8. Okay, so we know the smallest number we need is 5 6/8. What's the largest number that you see? What's the largest number that you see? Garrett?
6 and 5, 8.
So we know that we have to go from 5 6/8 to 6 5/8. Okay? So, and then also our whole numbers. So we could say that we can go from 5 to 6 to 7. Do you guys agree? But what increments are those whole numbers divided into? I'm going to erase this so I have some more space. Should we divide it into thirds, fourths, fifths? What should we divide it into and why? As you guys can see, the smallest unit is eighths. Do you guys see that? Which means we should divide each amount into eighths. So now I have fourths, and now I have eighths. Very good. Now we can go through and start to add our data. Player A is 6 1/4 feet. So I can take a look and I can say that 6 1/4 would be right here because 6 1/4 is the same as 6 2/8. Remember that, and then I'm going to put an X there. Remember that when we make line plots, we use the same symbol for every piece of data. Right, Anshul?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we've marked 6 1/4. Player B is 5 7/8. I know that 5 7/8 is just 1/8 less than 6. So I'm going to write that there. Go ahead and move through each piece of data and mark it onto the line.